When I said to Duke that you could have free rein to pick any speaker, I didn't mean me. So I need to have a little word with him. I'm going to talk about the company that we're setting up, which is called Hiut Denim Co. And I'm going to talk to you about why we're setting it up. Because then I think I'm not trying to convince you to buy our jeans, but I'm trying to tell you and understand the way we work stuff through. I think that is more interesting than anything. I'm going to talk about luck, and I'm going to talk about love, and I'm going to talk about ideas. But firstly, I'm going to tell you a story about my dad. My dad was an electrician in the Merchant Navy, and he would have sailed into San Francisco, and I know that he loved it. The thing with electricians in the Merchant Navy, it was very easy to be a bad electrician, because you could always do this one thing and say that the previous electrician did a bad job. So you could always blame the guy before you. My dad was a perfectionist, and he always wanted to do something well. So having this culture where it didn't really care, it didn't matter if you were going to do a good job or not, kind of drove him nuts. And then one day he just changed something, and he changed it just by doing the smallest of things. He started putting his initials by every job he did. And he just put JBH. Everything he did on this ship. So he'd be on the ship for 6 months. So when the next electrician came, he could never blame my dad for not doing it well. And when my dad told me this story, I just went, that's why I'm a nutter. And I didn't realize then, I just thought it was just me. And that story really resonated with me because I just wanted to do something well. Likewise, Apple in the very early days when they were doing the Macintosh, Steve Jobs got all the engineers to sign the inside of the Macintosh. Nobody would ever see it. Nobody would ever know it was there. But Steve Jobs believed that they were artists and therefore they needed to sign their work. To me, that was kind of extraordinary, and I loved it. So when we're starting a denim company, I know we're going to make a great jean, and I know we're going to do it well, and I know we're going to do as low impact as we can, and I know in a very sleepy industry that hasn't changed for 100 years, I know we're going to bring some change to it. But my aim really is to do it so well that we can put our initials to each and every pair. So I want to talk to you about the 3 things that we've been through that I think will help us do it well. And just so you know, we're only ever going to make jeans. No bobble caps, no perfumes, just jeans. And the good thing about when you commit to words and you put them on film, you just got to stick to it. So, and I just want to do one thing well, and that's it. And I'm happy I will be happy then. I want to talk about luck. 4 or 5 years ago, we sold our company. And we sold it to people because we were growing far too crazily. We wanted to get people who knew what they were doing in there because we didn't. And we sold it to people and we told them, look, this thing is beautiful, but you've got to understand that it's about whales. And you've got to understand that's really important to the business and it's really important to us. And they said yes, that absolutely. And then 18 months later, I'm standing in a meeting and they're telling me that they're going to move the warehouse to Holland and the design thing to Denver. Boosh. I left the company that second, emotionally and physically, a little while later. And it was really hard, actually, because I just couldn't stay in the company that I started. And so I was there going, oh, okay. So I left, and I was there. I was pretty unhappy because I loved this thing, and I'd sold it to people that didn't love it. And I was mad with myself. I was kind of angry with myself. And I was kind of like going, wow, what am I going to do now? And you've got to understand about the Welsh is we can do misery well. Like I think we can do misery better than almost anybody. And so I decided that I would go running. And I would replace one set of pain with another. And the other thing you should know about Wales is that we've got some great places to take misery for a run. And that's what I did. So me and my dog, we went up the hills and we'd run. And while we were running, I was working on a plan to make some jeans. And I kept going up there, and I was writing the plan in my head. And after about 3 months of running and writing, I got to a plan that I thought was pretty great. I showed it to my old shareholders, and they said, let's go again. And then I just said, oh, I just felt like I'd run this marathon, and I didn't want to run around the same track twice. And they were just going, what? And I said, oh, I don't want to do it. I hadn't worked out why I wanted to do it. I knew that I could, but I wasn't clear in my mind. And understanding the why of a business is really easy. It's basically the wind in your sails. And without the why, there's no wind. You're still a boat, and you can drift along, but there's no real oomph to it. So I kind of had this little thing in the corner of the room, and it was called the Do Lectures, and I was struggling, and I thought, well, maybe I should just give some time to that. So I went and convinced the Welsh government that this thing was absolutely brilliant. They took a bit of a punt because I'd been quite successful at this other thing, and I went. And it was quite a big moment, actually. And then so the Do Lectures had a bit of funding, and then I built a little team, and it was quite easy to build a team because actually, when you're selling free and inspiration, people go, "Oh, I really like that product." So I built a little team, and then I had this website that was clunky. So then I kind of got these really cool guys in Austin, Texas, to go, let's go and build a website that does some interesting stuff. So they came back with the world's first video responsive website. So suddenly, when lots of people came to the website, it kind of worked. And it worked really well, regardless of what thing you was watching it on. So the Do Lectures then became quite stable, and it was really fun. And myself and Claire kind of, on a Tuesday morning, we would kind of guide the people, and it was safe. It was out of like the difficult early struggle period, and it was gone into the let's have some fun. Then I got a phone call which pretty much changed everything, and it was from an old designer, and we'd sort of fallen out because we were kind of too similar. And he said, "Look, what's happening with the jeans plan? We love it. Why aren't you doing it?" And I said, well, I haven't figured out why I wanted to do it. I know I could, but... And he said, well, isn't it about making stuff in Cardigan? And we'd thought about it a little bit before, but it was like too hard. I mean, the economics were hard. I mean, setting up a factory, we'd never done that before. And then I put the phone down, and I just said, well, that's it. We don't have to start a jeans company, because there's enough of those in the world. But we can definitely start a jeans company that wants to get this town making jeans again. And this picture is Britain's biggest jeans factory, producing 35,000 pairs of jeans a week for 3 to 4 decades. And guess what? It just happens to be in our town, or was in our town. And in 2001, it closed. And when that factory left, the town was still there, the people were still there, and the skill was still there. So if you're going to start a jeans factory anywhere in Britain, you probably start in Cardigan. And I lived in Cardigan, and I wanted to start a jeans factory. So the reason I say luck is really important to our business is because it's not like it's a corporate strategy, but luck is really important. And the other thing about luck is a thing called timing and zeitgeist. And people call them those things, but actually it's luck. And if you think back to 3-4 years ago with the banking crisis, as woeful as all those actions were, I mean, actually in the UK, and I can't speak for America, but actually something really interesting happened. People felt incredibly vulnerable. And they felt vulnerable because they didn't really understand what all the bankers did. And it's a service industry, and we don't understand what they did. Actually, they didn't understand what they were doing either. But everybody kind of worked out, you're going, actually, we don't make as much stuff as we used to. And we don't grow as much stuff as we should. And I think everybody felt a little change happening. And if we're going to start a jeans factory in Britain, making a jeans factory in Britain is the best time to do it right now, because people are more receptive to making products in our home country. And that is just luck. None of this stuff was designed or thought about. It just happens to be that way. So I think luck's important, and you've got to be sometimes in the right place at the right time, but you also got to recognize it when you see it and act on it. This is Ellen. She starts in the factory on October the 5th. This is the factory. The machines are on the way, and by the end of October, we'll be making jeans. And it'll be the first time in a decade that Cardigan has made a jean. So Malcolm Gladwell talks about grandmasters and 10,000 hours. I mean, he actually talks about it in terms of chess, that once you've done 10,000 hours, you become a grandmaster. In our town, it's freaky because all these grandmasters make jeans. They spent 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours, 30,000 hours, in some cases 40,000 hours, knowing and learning how to make a jean. And that's incredibly lucky for us. I've got written on here, don't play small, so I don't know what that means. But, right. Love. I get asked a lot, how can I get my customers to love my brand? And the easiest answer in the world is, well, you've got to love it yourself first. And when people start things, they don't really love them that much. And guess what? The customer sees it. Sees it in the product, it sees it in the service, sees it in the culture. And I think love's an odd thing to write down for businesses because it's a bit wishy and washy. But it's an incredibly important aspect to what you're doing. If you can spend your time loving what you do, you're going to do it well. You're going to do it incredibly well. And when I was at the old company, I discovered I really loved jeans. It's a bit like wine. There's an awful lot of geekiness in it. There's Japanese salvage, there's washing this, there's the stitching of this. But I kind of thought, there's just something really nice about jeans. And I think if you can't love your product, then you shouldn't make your product. And I love jeans because actually they get better with age. And I wish we could say the same about us. But jeans they just literally get better with age. And they become yours after a while. And we've all got favorite jeans, haven't we? And when it comes time for them to die, we're pretty sad about it because we've worked so hard to get them to the point where they're brilliant. And I kind of like all that, and there's something odd about jeans, and I love the fact that actually they're the creative uniform for the creative man. And I love creative people, and I love the ideas that they have. I love the change that they make. I love the companies that they create. I love the code that they write. I love the cakes that they bake. And I just want to, sell to customers that are the creative people of the world. And so I just want to make a product I love, and I want to sell it to the customers that I love. And I think, if you're starting something, if you can try and engineer what you do into things that you love and sell them to people that you love, I think you've got a much better chance of succeeding. This is the shoot we had a couple of weeks ago. A great photographer, Andrew Painter, came over from San Francisco, funny enough, to Wales. And we got all these barns. And so we didn't hire models. We hired carpenters, stonemasons, brickies. And we just said, look, we've got all these bloody buildings. Let's go and make them a bit better than they were. And along the week, we would just shoot that. And that would become the yearbook. We're going to produce a yearbook once a year. And it's going to cost £5 for you to get it. But it's there to sell 2 pairs of jeans, but it's there to inspire you as well. And I think companies should always inspire you. And that's one of our daughters there, so little Stella. So making in Britain is great, but ultimately, the criticism could be it's a business based on sentiment. And there is no real business that is based on sentiment that actually survives. So we need to be aware of that. And the Grandmasters are going to make a great jean. So we can only be as good as the best, but we can't be better. And I think for us to succeed is we have to bring some ideas to an industry that has been quite sleepy for 100 years. So I'm interested in making a product that lasts, because I think that's ultimately the best thing you can do for the environment, regardless of all the other things. So on our jeans patch, we're going to put a year, just like as if it was a wine. And then you can see in 10 years' time, you're going, oh, you had a 2011 pair. And it becomes a celebration for actually making stuff that lasts, rather than making stuff that gets thrown away. And if you think about, we want to sell to creative people, and guess what? They are the history makers of this world, and they make change. And we want them as customers. And if they make change, and if they make history, then shouldn't we record it? So the idea for us is, that's just a nice picture as well. So the idea that we're going to launch with is called a history tag. So each jean is going to have an individual number on the pocket, and you'll be able to go to the website, historytag.com, and you'll be able to see your jean being made, and you'll be able to see how long it took to make. You'll be able to hear the music that was playing when the jean was being made. You'll be able to find out if it was raining. But the other side of the history tag is you'll be able to upload its memories along your journey. So you can put in your best day, where you traveled to, what ideas you had. And the reason to do that is because if you're going to make something to last, and if this jean one day ends up in a second-hand shop, you'll be able to look at the number and you'll be able to see what history it had and where it went. So I'm not saying it's a big idea or even a small idea, but I know it's an idea. And I think I want to run a company that has ideas and also makes jeans. And for me, the power of the internet and the ability for it to tell stories is just coming together with a company that just wants to make products that last a long time. So for me, the history tag idea is kind of interesting. But it's just going to be one of a bunch of ideas that we have. So that's, in essence, kind of my talk. But I just want to finish up because I guess I know the pattern for big do's and small do's. I've got this on my desk at work, and it's the to-do list that my dad made on his last day. And sorry. And I think for you, the key thing is there's going to be a day where you're not going to get your to-do list done. Now, the key thing for everybody is to make sure that we do something that we love, that we don't do other people's dreams, we do our own. And also, we do something so well, we can put our name to it. Thank you very much.